Today I'm going to talk about who you hang with. And what's really funny about that title is I thought I was being really hip and with it because I said who you're going to hang with. And I thought that was really current. Tells you something about me. Pastor Osway's right, I'm old. But what I want to talk about is a little bit of who you're hanging with, why you're hanging with them. Who do you want to hang with? What type of people should we do that? Does it really matter who you hang with? Or is it just another thing that's going on in your life? Before we get started, let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for this time. Thank that you have brought us each here for a reason and a purpose. Everyone is here because you've called them here. And Lord, I thank you that you are going to speak something into their life. They will receive something today, Lord, and we thank you for it in advance in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen. Okay, before we talk about who you hang with, there's something we've got to all get a hold of. And that's how valuable we are. Because if you don't understand how valuable you are, the rest of it doesn't really matter. Okay? So it's important that we understand that we have value, that we are important. Suppose you went to a garage sale and you saw this beautiful picture. How much would you pay for this picture? Yeah, I hear laughter. Would you hang it on your wall? Yeah, thank you. You've read my notes. All right, now I'm going to release this, and you'll notice up here the name is Ethan. That's my grandson. This is my grandson's first picture that he colored for me. Okay? Suddenly the value of this picture just changed dramatically. All right? And I'll tell you, it's been hanging on my refrigerator for how long? 3 months, maybe? Okay, at least 3 months. Now, suppose you're at that garage sale and you got really good eyes and you look down here in the corner and it said Pablo Picasso. How much would you pay for this picture now? What changed? The picture didn't change. Who painted that picture is what changed. Our value is not based on anything but who our Creator is. We are all children of God. Our value didn't change. How many of you have ever seen the movie Toy Story? Yeah, I love that movie. Sometimes I even take my grandkids, so just saying. If you remember, it was a big deal when Buzz Lightyear showed up, and on his foot, it didn't say Andy, the name of the boy who owned him. He was kind of an outcast. All the other toys had that on their foot. It was a big deal. It mattered who owned him. Same's true of us. I'm hoping someday, and I'm not a tattoo kind of guy, but I may have to tattoo God on the bottom of my foot just so that people will know whose I am. Okay? So, again, we are all incredibly valuable because of who owns us. You are an original. You were built with a purpose and a design and a plan for your life. Never underestimate the importance of that. It doesn't matter what you look like, how you sound, whether you can sing. It doesn't matter what your title is other than child of the King. Okay. So who you hang with? Does it matter? Let me see the hands of people who are parents in here. Your child comes home, says, hey, I want to go over to this friend's house. What's the first thing you want to know? Who's this friend? Right? You want to know. It's critical because that child is your most valuable possession. You're not going to let that child just go off with anybody. it's got to be somebody you approve of. When my daughter Jacqueline was really little, she said, hey, I want to have this girlfriend come over for a sleepover. It was the first night that little girl had ever gone to somebody's house. And what was neat, her mom called us and spoke to my lovely bride and said, I just need to know you because I am sending you the most precious thing I own. I need to know that she's going to be taken care of because she really matters. Okay? Same thing's true of us. God's our Father, so let's talk about what the Word says about how important it is who we hang with. I could spend the whole message in the book of Proverbs, right? That would kind of get boring ultimately. No, it wouldn't. But you could spend the whole message in the book of Proverbs. I'll give you just a few. Proverbs 13:20. Walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and you get in trouble. Boy, that's hard to figure out. Proverbs 22:24 and 25. Don't hang out with angry people. Don't keep company with hotheads. Bad temper is contagious. Don't let it get you. I always laugh like this because I see this and I hear people say, hey, sometimes the Bible's so confusing. Maybe it is. And sometimes it's so plain that there's nothing you can add to it. It couldn't be any more clear. God's saying who you hang with is what you're going to be like. Right? We've all heard Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. These things are out there. If you want to know what you're going to be like in 5 years, take an inventory of the people you're investing your time in. Because that's what you're going to be like. So the question is that what you want to be like? You've got to make that decision. We are called to be conformed to the likeness of God. Are we investing time with God? Because that's how we're going to get to be like Him, right? By who we associate with. If I'm spending time and associating with God, I can't help but be more like Him. The same thing is true here on earth. Who we invest our time in is who we are going to be most like. Okay, that's Proverbs. Let me talk a couple others. Daniel chapter 3 talks about somebody named Shadrach. Who else is there? Meshach and Abednego. Have you ever heard somebody say, this is about Shadrach? No. It's about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They hung out, right? They were together. They had like minds, like desires to be with the Father. You don't hear about them one at a time. That's who they hung out with. Folks, part of what we're called to do as Christians is to help change lives. And if you've developed a relationship with people, you have now earned the right to speak into that person's life. Relationship is critical when it comes to changing the hearts and minds of people. It gives you authority. Probably one of my favorite stories about all this. You notice I talk a lot about my kids. I love my kids. This is a story that my son always hates to hear, and it seems like it's the only one he ever hears. But before I start, let me say this. I love my son. He is an amazing son, an amazing father, and a great husband. He is just a fine young man, and I love him dearly. And of all the wonderful things that he's done in his life, the thing that taught us the most was the one time he got in trouble. It just is. That's life. The reality is that when I'm coasting downhill on a bicycle, I'm not getting a lot of exercise. But when I'm pumping that bicycle uphill, that's when I gain strength, right? So when you come against adversity, that's making you better. So he gets in trouble one time. And I know this will surprise anybody who knows me, but I spent a little time that week talking about it to him. Thank you. Explaining that, you went out with a group of guys where you could have been the leader, and you sat back, and some bad stuff happened. I won't get into it because we don't have a long time. But the bottom line is, I kept saying, you're with these people. You have authority. You need to do that. You need to accept that authority. Take that responsibility. And that Sunday, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Charles, you're sitting in the seat I was sitting in. I'm just telling you. Julie and myself and Alex sitting right back there. I call them the Bill Mickey seats for anybody who remembers Bill, because that's where Bill sat, right there. Last row, right next to the sound booth. And we're sitting there, and Alex is kind of slouched back, his head's down. Julie and I are back there. That was not our normal seats, because we weren't feeling very normal that day. And there was a guest preacher who came up here, and that guest preacher walked up to the pulpit, and he said, I want to start with 1 Corinthians 15:33. Bad company corrupts good character. And Alex pops up in his seat, his eyes as big as saucers, and turns and looks at me, and I have at the same time turned and looked at him, and it was like, what did you tell him? How did you get to this guest pastor? Because he's talking to me about what you've been saying all week. Folks, I had nothing to do with it. But I know who did. And I loved on the way home, Julie said, so what'd you think of that? And Alex said, I thought he was talking to me. Yeah, hard not to. But that's a great verse. We all want to go out and change everybody, but we have to understand that if you hang around bad character, don't be surprised when it rubs off on you too. Okay? Let's see, what else? Did I have anything else to say, or can I send you home now? What do you think, Alex? Am I done? Not a chance. Suppose you got an axe. I like to go out and chop wood in my yard. I got an axe. What do I need to make that axe useful? I need a piece of wood, and I need a grinding stone, right? To us, what that means is I need mission and an equipper. That axe's mission is to go chop wood, but it needs somebody to sharpen it. We are the same way. We need to have people who we can speak into their lives and lift them up. But we also need people speaking into our lives, lifting us up. And if you don't have both, you're out of balance. You're not going to be effective at what you do. When I went off to college, one of the things we had was study groups. I probably needed them more than most. They used to have study groups all through the week and all this, and it was great, I guess, because I'd go the night before the test. They hated me. In those study groups, you'd go over homework problems, and you'd study for the next exam, and you had a group of people, and you'd hope that between them, you could get everything you needed. I'll tell you, the last thing you wanted to be when you were in a study group, that's the smartest one. Because if you were the smartest one in that study group, all that happened is they took from you. They took your time. They said, hey, I need to understand this. And if you were the smartest one, so I've heard, I was not the smartest one in any group I've ever been in. if you were the smartest one, they're going to come to you and say, I need this. And to you, that's common sense. It doesn't take anything to figure it out. But now you've got to take time out of what you're doing to lift somebody up. I'm just going to say this. If you're the smartest one in your group of friends, get a bigger group. Okay? I'm just saying, all right? If you're hanging out with Larry, Curly, and Mo, don't be surprised. Okay? That's what's going to happen. You need people that you can lift and people that are willing to push you ahead. Okay? You got to be balanced in your life. In the book of Exodus, chapter 17, it talks about the story of Moses and Joshua and Aaron and Hur. And Joshua goes off to fight the Amalekites. Moses goes up on the hillside with his staff. And as the battle's going on, Moses raises his arm, raises the staff, and Joshua's army is winning. And those of us who've been in here in praise and worship know that ultimately your arm gets tired. And it starts to come down. And as Moses' arm started to come down, suddenly the Amalekites started taking the battle to Joshua. And Aaron and Hur are watching this. They see what's going on. And what do? They go over and lift his arms for him. Think what just happened. You've got Moses who's got a mission. He's got people lifting him up, and he's got people that he's lifting up. Okay? That's what we're called to do in life, folks. Both lift and be lifted. So, what type of people do you want to hang with? There's a bunch of stories in the scriptures we could talk about. I'm going to talk about an Old Testament and a New Testament one, just because I like to throw a little balance in there. 1 Samuel 18 talks about the story of a guy named Jonathan. Notice how I said it's a story about a guy named Jonathan. Jonathan is the son of King Saul. Not a bad beginning in life, right? He's the son of a king. Guess what? We're all children of the king. Okay? He's also the son of a king, King Saul. So he's got access to everything in the kingdom. And he thinks, hey, I'll take over when Daddy's gone. And I'll be elevated to all these high positions. And what happens? Daddy raises David to be the head of the armies. Now, Jonathan had a couple choices here. The logical one, the one that too many people take, is to get jealous. Right? That should have been me. I had that coming. Now, what did he do to deserve it? He was born. Hey, that was a big task, huh? But that's his mindset. Could have been his mindset. In fact, it was just the opposite. Saul became jealous of David to the extent that he tried to get his servants and his son Jonathan to kill David. And what did Jonathan do? Jonathan would have been probably the greatest beneficiary if somebody had knocked off David, right? But what happens? Jonathan starts out by saying, David, there's stuff about being in a palace that you don't understand. That's where I've lived. I understand that. So let me train you in those things so that you know what you're to do when you get into that situation. And then when his dad starts coming up with these plans to kill him, he forewarns him. He stands up for David in front of his dad. He celebrated David's success. That's a friend. That's somebody who's going to stick with you through it all. Okay? I'm going to share a little personal experience here that to date, I don't think my kids even know this at this point, so they may be finding out for the first time. Just recently, there were some new positions created at my company, and they took some of the people from my group and elevated them to this position. And I thought that was going to be me. And it wasn't. And I'll admit, I was disappointed. There's a whole lot of backstory to it. I won't get into it. But the bottom line is, yeah, I was disappointed. And one day, my boss and I were in a meeting, and we stepped off to the side to talk, and he looked at me and said, "So what do you think about this?" Because he knew that he's the one who's measured my performance for 20, 30 years. And has said, "Hey, you are the one I try to get people to emulate. That's what I want all my employees to look like." And so he asked me how I was doing. I said, "Well, let me say this. I'm disappointed. But I have no problem being a Jonathan." And he looked at me with that look on his face like, "What? Have you lost your mind? What is that?" And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, it's a Bible story. Look at 1 Samuel 18. I said, the bottom line is, boss, what I'm telling you is, yeah, I'm disappointed, but I will do everything in my power to help those people be successful at what they're called to be." Now, I'd like to stand here before you and say that it's easy, and that I did it with this joyful heart. I'm just going to be flat honest. It's been tough. But when you make a statement like that, guess what? God gives you the chance to honor that commitment. Just as recently as this week, I had one of those folks call me. And I dropped everything I was doing and said, "Hey, let me help you, because this is an area you don't have any expertise in. You haven't been here long enough. I can help you." And I did. And I'd love to stand up and say, "Look at me, isn't that great?" But I got to tell you the truth, it's hard. It is not easy. When you think that should be you, it's not easy. But I'm getting there. I've gotten to the point where I say, you know what? God's got me where He's got me for a reason. I need to realize that. This is my purpose. He's got me there to do something special, and so help me, I'm going to do it. So we all need to understand that we've got a position, a place. We need to be celebrating the experiences of others, celebrating their success. How many of you football fans? How about Cleveland Brown fans? Sorry that you could not root for a pro team. But you have a lot of experience in one very important thing. Not losing. No. You have a lot of experience in drafting quarterbacks in the first round. Okay? And what do you do with them? They come in, and they're typically, no, you don't destroy them. I'm sorry. Yeah. What most pro teams do is they take that rookie quarterback and they give him a clipboard and they say, "You stand here and watch and learn from this veteran." And it's that veteran's job to raise that rookie up to take his place. Right? That's the kind of friends you want to have. Somebody who's willing to impart everything they have in you so that you can take it and go to the next level. Folks, that's one of the things we need to look for when we're looking for a friend. We are called as Christians to raise up the next generation. okay? We need to be planting seeds in our next generation because we want them to take the kingdom to the next level. Take it further than we have taken it. And if we don't impart that, we're setting them up to start behind where we wanted them to start. The kingdom is family business. It's about family, okay? If you own a family business and you don't train one of your children to take it over when you are done, I'd call that a dysfunctional family. You're setting it up to go down the tubes. This is when I wish I had Pastor John's gift for voices. It's about the family. You know, I can't do it like him, but that's it. This is a family business, okay? And it's our job to raise up the next generation and say, all right, here we are. Take it. I'm planting this seed in you. Take it and go with it and move on. And then look and watch and say, look at that. That is awesome. We're doing that here at this church. You look at our board of trustees and our board of elders, and you're seeing younger people. And I can point to almost everybody in this room and say younger people, but we're raising younger people to take into those positions, to take it from there and take off like a rocket ship. That's what we want to see. We look at how Christ modeled that. He gave it to the disciples. Every one of the disciples had a mission, right? All of them. And they took the seeds that Jesus planted in them and went about their mission. They died for him, okay? They didn't let those seeds die on the inside. My question to you is, are the people that you're hanging with willing to take the seeds that you plant in them and use them and go higher with it? Or are they keeping them to themselves? Because if they're keeping that seed to themselves, it's dying right there. We want that to take off. I'm convinced that my children are going to do that. Whether they know it or not, I've planted seeds in them. I'm convinced that they are going to fulfill the calling that's on their lives. And I won't give that up until I'm gone. That's the Old Testament. Let's talk about New Testament. Mark 2, 1 through 12. Pardon me while I grab a drink. Story of a paralyzed man. Jesus goes to Capernaum. He goes into a house where he's going to teach and preach. And I find it interesting that he goes to that house and he's teaching and preaching, and we don't hear anything about all the rest of that. He went in there to teach and preach, but we don't hear about what he was teaching and preaching at that moment. This paralyzed man, he knows down in his soul that if he gets before Jesus, he'll get his healing and he'll walk away. So he gets a hold of 4 friends. And he says, I need you to take me to where Jesus is. Now, when I first thought of this, I had this great idea. I was going to have 4 guys come up here and carry me, but I figured I'd get dropped. That would end the message, so I'm not doing that. But these 4 guys pick up however much dead weight and carry it a long distance, and they get to the house where Jesus is, and what do they find? Ain't no way in. The house is packed. People are standing at the window. They're straining an ear to hear every word coming out of Jesus' mouth. Those 4 guys would have been forgiven if they'd have said, hey, pal, we got you here, right? We'll leave you here. When Jesus comes out, you just holler to him, all right? They would have been forgiven if they'd have let him go. They'd already done that big job. But that isn't what they did. Right? They got a ladder. They went and got a Sawzall and an extension cord from 2,000 years in the future. And they cut a hole in the roof of somebody's house they don't know. And I laugh, Jesus is sitting there, sawdust coming down, and the guy who owns the house is probably looking and saying, honey, did you hire guys to put in a skylight or something? What's going on here? And suddenly this man gets lowered. Who's the hero? Who's the hero in this story? We always hear, Jesus, of course, healed the man. He's a hero. The paralyzed man's a hero. Yeah, his faith. But the real hero to me is these four men, right? They carried somebody to his destiny. They carried him to where he was needed to be, and he went the extra mile. Folks, those four men could have just as easily have gotten there and said, we did our job. Our work here is done. They could have not even carried him there. Think about this. The guy could have said, hey, take me there. I need to go there. And they could have said, hey, we got faith, brother. If you can get there, you're good. You're good. And off they go. But the scriptures tell us faith without works is dead. These guys had faith and works and went the extra mile to cut a hole in somebody's roof. Okay? They are the heroes to me. They went that extra mile to make sure that this man got his healing. Will the people that you're hanging around do the same for you? Will you do the same thing for the people that you're hanging around? So what do you look for in a friend? In somebody that you hang with, okay? Somebody that you truly are investing time with. What do you look for? Well, let's start with Jonathan. You look for somebody who celebrates your success. You look for somebody who says, you don't want to hang out with people who are worried that you just got their piece of the pie. Right? You want to hang out with people who know the pie maker, who's got the oven and can make all the pie you want. Okay? That's what you're looking for. People who aren't afraid of that but celebrate your success because they know there's plenty of success out there to be had. Okay? Who else? What other things? You want to hang out with people, they don't have to agree with you every time. They're going to ask you the hard questions. They may tell you the things you don't want to hear. Okay? Let me make this as natural as I can. I want to hang out with somebody who says, hey, Jeff, your fly's down. I'm sorry. Guess what? First of all, I'll tell you, I checked before I came up, so I'm good. But you got to understand that a true friend doesn't want you to go out there like that. Right? They're looking out for you. They're willing to say that hard thing so that you don't suffer. The emperor has no clothes, right? How many have heard that story? We've heard that story, right? That's it. That's what we're talking about. My wife is shaking her head because she's heard this. She knows what's coming next. And you thought that was bad. We've gone on this effort and are really just getting started to try and clear out our house a little bit. The other day I was walking in our bathroom and I looked in the trash can and there was this thing that said, just for men, designed to darken your hair. And to give you an idea of our house a little bit and how much we've kind of hoarded, I don't know a good way to put it, Somebody gave me that when I turned 50. And I am a little over 50. And I looked at my lovely bride and I said, honey, what, you don't want me to use that and get my hair darker? And she responded like this: I'm afraid it would just get your scalp black because you don't have much hair left. I love my wife because I know she will say the hard things to me. Okay? She is there, and she told me, she said, I got your back. I said, yeah, I mean, that's how you know I have no hair back there. What else do you want in people that you hang out with? You want to hang out with people who are willing to carry you. People who are willing to lift you. We all are going to go through seasons. If you think, hey, I became a Christian, it's all, perfect now. I got news for you. You haven't read all the scriptures yet. Okay? It's not all easy. It's not a downhill bike ride. There's lots of stuff that's going to go on in your life. So you need to have people around you that can carry you. But you need to have people around you that are willing to be carried when they need it. Okay? Do these people need to be popular? What does it mean to be popular? Being popular means other people like you. It's nice. But it's not important that you hang out with people who are popular. I'd rather hang out with somebody who's got joy and happiness. Because what's that? If I've got that, I like me. Right? And if I like me, that's happiness. That's joy. I want to hang out with somebody who isn't living in my past. They have got to be looking out not at my history, but at my destiny. Okay? And if they can't look at what is before me and are stuck on looking at what's behind me, I got a big problem. I can't change this. Okay? It is what it is. All right? Notice that we've all got those limitations. God makes it a point to use people with limitations. The things that have come against you aren't things that are designed to hold you back. They're things that are designed to prepare you for what comes next in your life. Next one's really interesting. You want to hang out with winners. Now, let me define a winner for you. Yes, Jessica, I'm looking at you. This is hard for me to say because I'm a competitive guy. Now, in my old age, that's kind of gone down a little bit as I've gotten, I don't know. I'm not quite as competitive as Jessica. Okay? On the softball field, it's almost scary. Okay? So you step back and say, yes, coach, I got it. I'm out of your way. What's the difference between a winner and a loser? A loser looks at what they're going through. A winner looks at what they're going to. Okay? We need to be hanging out with people who are looking forward to where they're headed, not looking at what the challenges are they have today. Those are some of the characteristics of people we should be looking for that we want to hang out with. Well, guess what? Others out there are going to look at you the same way. How do you measure up? Do you celebrate your friends' successes? Do you look forward to them having victories? Are you going to tell them their pants are unzipped? Here's the hard part now. This has been the easy stuff so far. Here comes the hard part. Taking stock of the people we're hanging out with. I don't know how many of us have done that. We need to look at the people that we're hanging out with and decide, are they building me up or are they draining me? Are they wearing me down or are they helping me go towards my destiny? Do you have people in your life that you see them as excellent and you're taking and making it a point to hang out with them to learn that stuff? Okay. And while you've got people like that in your life, are you being like that in someone else's life? I'm not saying that we shouldn't hang out with people who pull from us. Just the opposite. We need to hang out with people who need us. But if everything that comes along, they need you to lift them up, and that's all that ever happens. They're not listening to what you say. They're not willing to make a change so that they don't have that problem, then you need to evaluate that relationship. You need to decide, is that person helping me towards my destiny or are they holding me back? There comes a moment in some relationships, and I'm going to say some, when there's a time that it needs to be cut off. Honey, that's not the marriage relationship. Okay? You have to deal with my embarrassing ties. Okay? But the thing that we are holding on to may just be the thing that's holding us back from our destiny. It can be scary to let go. Heard a story about a hiker hiking along a mountainside, makes a misstep, he slides off, he's headed over a cliff, and at the last second he grabs this tree branch. And he's holding on for his life, and he says, "Somebody help." And he's screaming, and all of a sudden he hears, "This is God." The guy says, "Who is this and what do you want?" "This is God. I'm here to help. What do you need, son?" And the man says, "Well, I'm hanging on for my life. I need you to save me." And God says, "Gladly, let go of the branch." And the man looks around and says, "Is there anyone else out there?" It's scary to let go of things that are familiar. But you still need to evaluate them and decide, is this helping me or is it holding me back from my destiny? It's easy for us to sit there and think, hey, if I don't hang out with these people, I may not have friends. If you hang out with those people, it may stop you from reaching your destiny. Which scares you worse? God will bring you new friends. Where do I go from here? I'm doing this without my glasses. All right, how many saw the reconstruction that happened down on the square around the courthouse? All the stuff that was going on, right? They put all this great scaffolding up around the courthouse. And you saw it too? Good deal. That's comfortable for me because last week Julie and I were back teaching the kids, and that was fun. Not this, but they put that scaffolding up there to allow them to do the remodeling, to give that building a facelift. Okay? How many think that when they were done, it would have been a good idea to leave the scaffolding there? It would look pretty stupid, right? There are people in our life who are like scaffolding. I'm just saying. They're there for a season, either to be built up by you or to help propel you towards your destiny. And we need to be wise enough to know the difference. Know who it is that scaffolding in our life. Know who's got a shared vision with us so that we can walk alongside one another. Okay? When you've got shrubs, bushes, plants, and you see a branch that's dying, what do? You cut it off. You cut it off because otherwise it drains the entire plant of the nutrients it needs. And it helps the whole plant flourish. Same thing's true in our lives. True story. Probably a lot of you have heard this. Guy was climbing rocks. He's a rock climber. Made the mistake going out on his own. He's climbing a rock, big boulder. Yes, sir. No, not God. Sorry. Guy. Sorry. My diction isn't. Let me take another drink and I'll. Guy's going rock climbing. A boulder moves and pinches his arm against the mountain. And he's stuck. And he spent 2 days using every tool in his bag to try and get loose, to pry that rock off, to chip away enough of the rock that he can get his arm free, to no success. At this point, the rest of this arm has gone 2 days without blood flow. It's dead. And this rock climber made a decision that, I don't know how you make this decision, but here's what he did. He put on a tourniquet, he got his pocket knife out and amputated his own arm and was able to get down off the mountain, and now he's got something to talk about, doesn't he? Yes. This individual made the decision that he wasn't going to die with something that was already dead. The same is true of us. If a relationship is dead, if it's not bringing fruit, if it's not lifting you up and you're not lifting it up, it's already dead. The question is, are you willing to walk away from it? Thank you. I love him. You're awesome. Another thing that we need to have, folks, is an inner circle. That inner circle can be one person, it can be 100 people, but it needs to be an inner circle. God modeled this for us in the Bible, okay, in a number of places. I'll give you one easy one. The Mount of Transfiguration. He goes up there for the transfiguration of Jesus, and what happens? Who does he take with him? Peter, James, and John. He takes 3. Why didn't he take 12? Why did he take anybody? He was showing us an example that you have to have an inner circle. You've got to have a group of people in your life that you can trust with everything and they can trust you. Okay? And it doesn't have to be but 1 or 100, whatever it is. But that's what it needs to be. He gave us that example in other locations throughout the Bible. Search them out. I don't want to take you past football kickoff time or I will be in trouble. Each of us has a destiny, a mission. We've got people along the way that we're there to equip, and people that are there to equip us. I'm going to say that our mission is not to go out and make money or be a professional athlete or be the President of the United States or some great movie character or whatever it might be. That's something you do along the way to what is your destiny. Okay? Don't let those things be what drives you. Okay? Those are things we do. What lasts, what truly lasts, is what you've done for the kingdom. It's a family business. What have you done for the kingdom of God? That's what we need to ask ourselves. What are we doing to equip others? And what are others doing that's equipping us? You might be asking me, Jeff, why did you talk about this today? What's the big deal? Because we all need to be focused on who we allow in our lives and who we need to keep separated. We need to invest in all people. Don't get me wrong. We need to get out of these four walls and spend time. But we need to invest with our group of people. What type of people? I was reminded of this story that I heard shared one time. It's the middle of the night. I wake up. That's pretty typical. I look out the window and I see next door the house is on fire. What are my options? Well, my first option is to look and say, probably knows it already. Probably already aware that his house is on fire. He's probably got this. I don't need to sweat it. I might, wake up and say, well, just in case, maybe I'll call 911 and let them know. Yeah, we'll see. Or I might be the person who sees that, hops out of bed in my tighty-whities, runs across the yard, knocks on the door and says, get out of there, your house is on fire. You need to get safe. Today, I'm trying to be that person to say to you, you need to pay attention to who you're letting into your life. You need to be very specific about these are the people I need and that need me. We need to take account of that. We can't just let it happen to chance, because if we do, you're going to end up with some things you don't want, and they will rub off. So with that, again, I charge you, take a close look at who we're hanging out with, who we're investing our time with, and look for those people that we can lift and that will lift us.